Hey, I'm Pat Kay. I'm a travel photographer based in Sydney, Australia. While I've traveled all across the world, I'm mostly known for my photography work of Japan, the country that I love the most. As a professional photographer, I've had the privilege to work closely with brands like Sony, Microsoft, Adobe, DJI, Razer, Nike, Adidas, and many, many more. This course is a culmination of all of my experience working as a full-time travel photographer. It's a course where by the end of it, you'll know every single skill that I have when it comes to editing photographs in Lightroom. And I'm leaving nothing on the table with this course. And so it's my hope that you will take these skills and significantly transform your photography game. What you'll learn in this masterclass is a little bit different to what you might learn in other Lightroom courses out there. While we will learn all of the fundamentals, of course, we will also be covering some topics like workflow and creative editing techniques and preset creation and the difference between style and how to create a visual aesthetic. And then we will finish off the course with hours upon hours of real world editing so that you can have the creative confidence to know that no matter what images face you in the future, you'll be able to edit them well. Welcome to my Lightroom editing masterclass. Let's dig in. All right, let's run through the basics of how this course works. So when it comes to Lightroom, I generally think of Lightroom in one of two ways. The first way is that it's a piece of software to organize your images. And the second is that it's a piece of software to edit your images. And whilst this course will definitely cover both of those things, it definitely leans more towards the editing side of things rather than the organizational side of things. And that's how the modules and the lessons have been set up as well. Including this module, there are 8 modules that categorize the 50 lessons across this course. And each module is arranged in order of how I personally think you should be learning Lightroom from beginning to end. And so the general recommendation on how to consume this course best is in order. Of course, if you have been using Lightroom for a little while, feel free to skip ahead if you like, but definitely come back to the lessons that you've missed because there could be little bits of information that change your workflow forever. This is especially true in the editing fundamentals module, where even though it is fundamentals, Lightroom does so many smart, clever things, and I go into detail, the technical detail of how those things work. So much so that even the most seasoned of Lightroom users will definitely pick up a thing or two along the way. Now, each module has an objective that will come with it, and that objective will be outlined in the module overview video at the start of every module. For now, here's a little bit of a preview on how the entire masterclass will look when it comes to objectives. Introduction. That's this module. It sets the context for what this masterclass covers and lays the groundwork for the rest of the course. Importing and organization. This introduces Lightroom for the first time and illuminates efficient ways to import and organize our work. Editing fundamentals. This explains exactly what each editing tool does and how to get the best out of it. This is more about the how rather than the why, and this goes over the little secret things that Lightroom does behind the scenes to make your photos better. Local adjustments. This introduces how local adjustments work. Similar to fundamentals, this module introduces the how of local adjustments, and then later on we'll go through creative ways of how we can put these tools to use. Editing workflow. I go through my editing workflow step by step and break down what I think is the best way to approach editing an image. Creative editing. These are miscellaneous advanced concepts to both utilize and watch out for. Building a visual aesthetic. This module is about understanding how style in photography works and how to develop a distinct visual aesthetic that you can repeat over time. Editing sessions. This is about putting together everything in long form editing sessions where I'll go through many images and you can see exactly how I would approach editing these images within the same category from end to end. All right, and that's how it all works. I hope you enjoy the course. When Lightroom gets introduced in the next module, you might find that the version that I'm using and showing looks different to the version that you might have. Now, there are two versions of Lightroom, and the first one is simply called Lightroom, which I may refer to as Lightroom Cloud in this course as to not cause confusion. And the second one is called Lightroom Classic. Both versions of Lightroom share the majority of features and functions, but there are differences as to why you would want to use one versus the other, or even a combination of both, like I do. Firstly, with Lightroom Cloud, or just Lightroom, this version syncs between all of your devices, your phone, your tablet, and your computer. They can all roughly share the same images between all of your devices, which is neat when you need to edit images on the go. Also, the UI is newer and it's cleaner, and it generally lags a little bit less and is a little bit nicer on older computers when it comes to performance. There are downsides of using this cloud version of Lightroom though. While it's definitely better nowadays, it did take Adobe many years for the two versions to have the same amount of features as one another. At the time of this recording, the only real thing that's missing from Lightroom Cloud versus Lightroom Classic from an editing perspective is the calibration tool, which for many professionals and photographers with defined visual aesthetics is pretty much a deal breaker because of how powerful that tool is. Another deal breaker is that you can't store or edit images locally. You have to upload your images to Adobe's servers. While for some plans you can get 1 terabyte for free, for many professionals who have libraries of dozens of terabytes or more, to keep your library in Lightroom means that you'll be paying in excess of $150 per month and above for your storage allocation. Again, it's a deal breaker for most professionals. That's why you'll see most professionals use Lightroom Classic, like myself, and that's what we'll be using in this course. Lightroom Classic is cheaper. You can store and use your images locally like normal, and you can still sync your images in limited ways between the two Lightroom versions. Adobe have also mentioned that they will be supporting both apps indefinitely, and it shows, with new features being released on both apps every couple of months. My recommendation here is that if you are looking to make photography a full-time profession, I would go with Lightroom Classic. But if you're just a hobbyist or a casual photographer, then perhaps Lightroom Cloud or just Lightroom will be a better and nicer option. Or you could just do both and find a way that works for you. Ultimately, regardless of the version of Lightroom that you'll be using, the skills and the techniques that you'll be learning in this course will be transferable between every version of Lightroom. If there is an exception to this rule, then I will be making a note of that in the relevant lesson. One thing I will point out at this point in the course, however, is that Lightroom Classic has the Map, Book, Slideshow, Print, and Web tabs at the top right of the UI. These are all features that have niche uses, and as this is a Lightroom editing course and the fact that Lightroom Cloud doesn't have any of these features, I will be omitting them from this course as they aren't editing focused. Plus, there are dedicated programs that do a much better job of those functions like Adobe InDesign or Adobe Photoshop. With that all being said, let's dive into the second module and introduce Lightroom.